Today's topic is managing risk. And we'll go through a framework that will help you to figure out what things you should be worried about and what things you can let go. Unfortunately, a lot of people seem to thrive on bad news, and we often hear stories of breaches and data being stolen or compromised. So how do we make sense of all of this and manage the risk that our business is facing? One way of looking at it is that risk is the intersection of three things: assets, threats, and vulnerabilities. What are assets? That's anything you have that's valuable. And it could be a physical thing like a laptop, or they might be virtual things like data. Assets are things that are of value to you as a business person, and unfortunately might be of value to the bad guys. To protect our assets, we first need to know what they are. And so we should begin by making an inventory. What valuable things help me run my business? Obviously, my computers, but also the data that's on the computers. And what about what's in the cloud? My email or my website. These are assets that help you run your business, and they must be protected. Let's move on to the second thing. Threats are anything that might damage an asset. So it could be physically stealing a computer from you, or it might be damaging the data that's held on the computer. Threats don't have to be people. Sometimes the threat is the weather, natural events which cause power outages. The threats can also include your own employees who might by mistake delete or damage data. Anything that would compromise your assets, your data, your computer systems is considered a threat. The third area is vulnerability. A vulnerability is a crack in your defenses. It's anything that would allow a bad guy to get at your assets. As a comparison, if somebody forgets to lock the front door of the office at night, that's a vulnerability. Now, it's easy to fix, and it will sort itself out the next morning when the staff arrives. But during that period of time, the assets in your office are at risk. In the same way, your digital assets may be at risk. There may be vulnerabilities in the software that you're using on your computers, and when those vulnerabilities are discovered, a window of opportunity opens for the bad guys. It will eventually be patched and closed, but during that period of time, there is risk. So how do you reduce risk? The goal is to make the intersection of these three areas as small as possible. Is it possible to eliminate risk? Unfortunately not. Eliminating risk would mean that you eliminated all your assets. Clearly, you can't be in business without assets. Or that you eliminated all threats. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen in the world we live in. Or that you eliminated all vulnerabilities. But sadly, that's not going to happen either. Software is never going to be perfect. Instead, we need to focus on reducing or managing risk. The point of intersection of those three circles can be made as small as possible. So what's the bottom line? Risk is something we can define. Risk is something we can measure. Risk is something we can reduce. It is possible to manage risk. But perhaps you have questions. How could I best protect the assets that I need to run my business? How exactly do I go about blocking certain threats? And how do I go about minimizing vulnerabilities? Would you like more information? We have spent years helping our clients to reduce risk, and we will be glad to help you with that as well. If you'd like more information, please reach out to us.